Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. When I was dead broke, man, I couldn't picture this. 50-inch screen, money green leather sofa. Got 2 rides, a limousine with the chauffeur.
Hello there, I'm Parsons from Review My Games, and I'm sorry it's been a while since I've done a video, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles, I suppose. Anyway, here's my review on Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Thought I'd better get that out of the way while it's still a fairly new game and people might still be looking for it. Probably contains some spoilers in this review, so if you don't want the story ruined, best not to watch the review, but I'll try not to put too much spoilers in it. So yeah, here's the review and I hope you enjoy it.
Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker is the most recent Metal Gear game to be released. It's the 5th Metal Gear game to be released on a PSP console, but it's only the 2nd to be considered part of the series' main storyline, Portable Ops being the first. It was released on April 28, 2010 in Japan, June 8, 2010 in North America, and June 17, 2010 in Europe. It's set 4 years after Portable Ops and tells the story of how Big Boss, or Naked Snake, first formed out of heaven. Big Boss is the leader of a new mercenary group known as Militaires Sans Frontières, or MSF for short. He's assisted by MSF's Deputy Chief Kazuhira Miller, who you may know from previous Metal Gear games as Master MacDonald Benedict Miller. The story starts with 2 people visiting MSF, Raymond Galvez Mina, or Galvez for short, and Paz Ortega Andrade. Galvez tells Big Boss that a mysterious armed group has been arriving in Costa Rica over the past year, and since Costa Rica has no army, their government has secretly authorized Galvez to approach MSF and ask for their services in stopping them. As part of the deal, MSF are given an offshore platform in the Caribbean. They accept the offer and use the offshore platform as their base of operations. This becomes Outer Heaven. As you play through the game, you find out that this armed group of people are led by a guy called Coldman. Coldman is using Peace Walker, a nuclear deterrent, to launch a nuke. Obviously Big Boss has to stop Peace Walker from launching the nuke, because if it wasn't up to Big Boss to do it, then it wouldn't be much of a game. I won't say much more about the storyline because I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't yet played through it. The story itself is very well done. It's very immersive and helps explain how Outer Heaven came to be, which Metal Gear fans will know as the place where Solid Snake first stopped Big Boss in Metal Gear for the MSX2 console. I don't think I'd go as far as to say that it's the best storyline in the franchise, as it does have a lot of competition, but it's definitely a fine addition to the series. However, this is where they should end it now. They don't need to make any more games about Big Boss because we now know everything that there is to know. We also know everything about Solid Snake, and I'm sure all the questions about Raiden will be answered in Rising when that's released. And if they aren't, then they should be, as fans don't really want a load of games where they play as Raiden, and they can easily fit everything that we need to know into this one game. The movie clips in this game are done in the same sort of comic book art style as in Portable Ops. Now I have to admit, I wasn't much of a fan of the style when it was used in Portable Ops, because I didn't think it looked that good. However, the clips in this game are a lot more detailed and it has much better animation. I actually like the way that the clips were done this time around, although I would have preferred it to be in a proper movie clip style like in the home console games. But you have to understand that if they did that, the gameplay would have suffered due to the fact that there's only so much you can fit on a UMD disc. So seeing as it was pretty much necessary to use this sort of style, I'm glad that it looked the way it did instead of just looking exactly the same as it did in Portable Ops. I know other people who don't like the style used, and it was obviously never going to appeal to everyone. But I also know people who do like the style used, and personally I think it looks pretty nice. The graphics are very nice for a PSP game. It can't really be argued that the graphics don't look good because for a handheld console, they're some of the best I've ever seen. I'm not sure which handheld game I'd consider to have the best graphics I've ever seen, but this game is definitely a good contender. The gameplay for this game is absolutely brilliant for a handheld game. The limited controls on the PSP console are used to good effect, and there's so much stuff you can do in the game. The sneaking missions can be fun, the boss fights are even more fun. There's extra ops, where you can do missions outside of the main storyline, and the amount of fun you have during a main op or extra op mission always tends to increase if you play with a friend. If anybody you know has this game, you can get together and play in co-op mode, where you play through missions together. This can make some of the missions a bit too easy, but it's always fun. The main missions are split into 5 chapters. However, the 5th chapter can get really boring, as nearly all of the missions involve having to find the same guy who keeps escaping from your prison. The end of Chapter 5 is brilliant though, where you're thrown into a battle against the Metal Gear Zeke that you yourself have built. Outside of the missions, there's recruitment, where you can gain more soldiers to work for MSF. More soldiers can also be obtained during missions by using the Fulton recovery system on neutralised enemies. This system is much better than the recruitment in Portable Ops, where you'd have to drag enemies to a truck or to one of your teammates hiding in a cardboard box, which slow down the gameplay and remove some of the fun from the game. This time around though, you just put the enemy in a balloon and they'll fly up to a chopper in the sky, allowing you to proceed immediately with the mission at hand. One point I have to make though is it's very weird how the enemy never seems to notice that one of their comrades are flying through the air in a balloon. Gaining more recruits means that your base will grow larger and more things can be produced, such as new weapons and items which will help you out in missions. You can also build your very own Metal Gear, known as Metal Gear Zeke. There's a mode called Outer Ops where you can send your Metal Gear along with some of your troops and vehicles that you've managed to acquire into battle. You don't get to fight these battles, instead they're fought while you complete missions. But you do gain stuff from doing it, so it's still worth doing. There's also Versus Ops where you can play against other people in death matches and those sort of things. Unfortunately, I can't talk about Versus Ops too much as I haven't actually tried it yet, so I'm sorry about that. The thing that really annoys me about this game though is how Big Boss is meant to be this big hero, known as the greatest soldier of that time, and yet he's somehow forgotten how to crawl. You could crawl in Metal Gear Solid 3, which was set 10 years before this game. In fact, I'm sure he could crawl since he was a baby. You could even crawl in Portable Ops, which was also on the PSP, so it can't be because of the console. I really see no reason why you can't crawl in this game. All you can do is lie on the floor. You can't even aim weapons while lying on the floor, you just lie there. The only reason to do it is because it makes you less noticeable to enemies. At least you can move and aim weapons while crouching, or else that'd be really retarded, but there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be able to crawl in this game. Other than that though, there isn't a lot of negative things you can say about this game. It's by far the best Metal Gear game on the PSP. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say it's the best game on the PSP, and it even matches up to some of the home console games. Personally, I've always preferred to play games on a home console rather than on handhelds, and I don't usually play on my PSP that much unless a really good game comes out for it, which isn't very often. The last time I bothered to play on my PSP was when God of War Chains of Olympus was released, and when I've stopped spending so much time on Peace Walker, I probably won't play another game on it until God of War Ghost of Sparta gets released. The fact is though that even though I don't play on my PSP that often, since I got Peace Walker, I've been on my PSP more than I've been on my PS3. Not only is it a really good PSP game, but it's a really good game, full stop.
So, in conclusion, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker has become my #1 favourite game of all time on the PSP. I think it's a brilliant game, especially for a handheld. Does this mean it gets the 5-star rating? Unfortunately not. It is, in my opinion, the best game on the PSP so far. However, the 5-star rating is reserved only for games of perfection, and as far as I'm concerned, I have yet to see a PSP game worthy of that title. Even the best game on PSP. Maybe if you could at least crawl, and if Chapter 5 didn't start to get so boring, then it might have been the first PSP game, in my opinion, that's worthy of a 5-star rating. However, these flaws did exist, and so I can only give it a 4-star rating. It's still a brilliant game though, and even though I've completed the main storyline, there's still plenty left for me to do. That's my opinion of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, and I hope you enjoyed this review.
As with all of our videos, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see this video and others on my site, along with some written reviews as well. So I'll leave a link in the description if you want to look at it, which you do. So do it. Now.